What is up, everybody? It is JT Sports. I'm back to you guys with another video. In this video, I am going to be redrafting the 2020 NFL Draft. Before we get into it, make sure that you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel because I upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. Also, make sure that you guys turn on post notifications so you don't miss a new upload. So I'm going to be redrafting last year's NFL Draft. If you guys like this video and you guys want me to do some more redrafts, such as redrafting the 2018 or the 2019 NFL Draft, make sure to leave a like and also comment down below what draft you would like me to redraft, and I will try to get to it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So number one overall, I have Justin Herbert going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, we already know that Joe Burrow was number one overall pick in last year's NFL Draft. He had a pretty good rookie year until his season got ended to a season-ending injury. But overall, though, I feel like Justin Herbert is clearly the best quarterback from the 2020 draft class. Even if Joe Burrow played the whole entire season, Justin Herbert was just putting out incredible numbers. Justin Herbert pretty much had the best rookie season we've ever seen from a rookie quarterback in NFL history. So I think that it will be pretty hard to say that in a redraft you wouldn't take Justin Herbert number one overall over Joe Burrow. And this is no disrespect to Joe Burrow. I believe that both Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. It's just that you can't say that Justin Herbert shouldn't be able to go number one overall over Joe Burrow when he had the best rookie season ever. Second overall, I have Chase Young still going to the Washington football team. Nothing has really changed there. Chase Young was Defensive Rookie of the Year last year, had a phenomenal rookie season. Still think he goes second overall. Now, you probably could say that maybe Washington should take a quarterback, but I still think you couldn't pass up on a generational pass rusher in a guy like Chase Young. Though third overall, this is probably going to cause a lot of disagreement in the comment section, but I have cornerback Trayvon Diggs going to the Detroit Lions. Trayvon Diggs was the best rookie cornerback in the NFL last year, regardless of how you look at his Pro Football Focus score, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But when you look at how good Trayvon Diggs performed for the Dallas Cowboys, he was pretty much, one of the focal points of that defense last year, a defense that really struggled last year, and Trayvon Diggs really was the anchor down in that secondary. So if the Detroit Lions were looking to go into a redraft and still with the mindset that they were looking to take a corner third overall, I definitely would trade Trayvon Diggs over Jeff Okudah, because I feel like Trayvon Diggs, as of right now, is the best cornerback from that 2020 cornerback class. Fourth overall, I have the New York Giants taking offensive tackle Mekhi Becton. Now, last year, they took offensive tackle Andrew Thomas in this spot. I think they still go offensive tackle, and this time they take Mekhi Becton, because to me, Mekhi Becton is the best offensive tackle as of right now from last year's draft class. Now, some people are probably going to say Tristan Wirfs, which I wouldn't get mad with you saying that, but I just feel like Mekhi Becton last year was playing on a Pro Bowl caliber level, and he was pretty much the best offensive lineman that the New York Jets had on that team. He was probably their second best player on offense aside from Jamison Crowder. You don't really say that a lot when it comes to the offensive lineman being your second best player on your offense, but that's how good Mekhi Becton was. Mekhi Becton most definitely lived up to his pre-draft hype, and I feel like he's the best offensive tackle right now from last year's class. Have Joe Burrow going to the Miami Dolphins with the 5th overall selection. They took Tua. Joe Burrow obviously was way better than Tua. And for the Dolphins, if they knew how good Tua was going to be compared to Joe Burrow, if Joe Burrow was available, I'm pretty sure Miami would have taken Joe Burrow over Tua. I have Tua going to the Chargers at 6, right after the Miami Dolphins. Listen, Tua's rookie season was not bad. People try to make it seem like Tua's rookie season was a complete disaster. He was awful. No, he wasn't. He won some games. He had a couple of off performances, but I still think that if you were the Chargers in a redraft, you would still take Tua, because at the end of the day, Tua still had a pretty decent or pretty solid rookie campaign. A lot of people are making it out to be like Tua's so garbage, he's a bust and things like that. Listen, Tua at best could be a top 15 quarterback. I think drafting a top 15 quarterback in the top 10 would be a pretty good selection there. So moving on to the 7th overall pick, I have the Carolina Panthers selecting Jeremy Chen. Now, they took Jeremy Chen in the later rounds of the draft, but in this redraft, I have him going 7th overall. Listen, he's not only a safety, but he can also play linebacker. Jeremy Chen gave the Carolina Panthers something that they needed, okay? Because you got to think, Luke Kuechly retired. So essentially, you had a big hole at that linebacker position. Jeremy Chen comes in. Not only does he have a phenomenal year as a safety, but he also was a linebacker in certain situations as well. In my opinion, they probably could have split the Defensive Rookie of the Year award and gave it to Chase Young and Jeremy Chen. Let both of those guys be co-Defensive Rookie of the Years, because Jeremy Chen made a lot of game-defining plays for Carolina, and he won Carolina a couple of games as well, simply by himself from the plays that he made. He's always in good position. He has high football IQ. He's always around the ball. This guy is quickly going to become the best safety in the NFL, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does it this upcoming season in 2021. Most definitely would take him 7th overall over Derrick Brown. And Derrick Brown didn't have a bad rookie season neither. He had a pretty decent rookie year from a defensive tackle. It's just that Jeremy Chen was just so dominant as a rookie. I don't see how you just couldn't take him 7th overall if you were Carolina again. I still have Isaiah Simmons going to the Arizona Cardinals at 8. Now, Isaiah Simmons did struggle early on, but in the second half of the season, when Arizona finally figured out how to properly utilize Isaiah Simmons and his talents and his strength, he was really good. He had a really good game in the rematch against Seattle. He was really good in the second half of the year. So I think most definitely we're going to start seeing Isaiah Simmons play way better come this season, because like I said, he didn't have a preseason, had a short training camp, and Arizona didn't really know how to properly utilize him. So really not having a preseason and having a shortened offseason due to COVID really not only hindered Isaiah Simmons, but it also hindered Arizona, because they didn't really know how to properly utilize Isaiah Simmons until the second half of the year, which he ended up playing pretty good. So I still would take him at 8. I have cornerback Jalen Johnson from Utah going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars originally took C.J. Henderson 9th overall out of Florida, but Jalen Johnson was probably the second best rookie corner. He got drafted in the second round, I believe, by the Chicago Bears, and he had the most pass deflections for a rookie. Now, he didn't really have a lot of interceptions and anything like that, but you can't define how good a cornerback is simply by interceptions. Sometimes you have to look at pass deflections, and Jalen Johnson was really good for Chicago. He's probably going to end up becoming that #1 cornerback in Chicago this season since they released Kyle Fuller. So 10th overall, Jedrick Willis still goes to the Cleveland Browns at 10. He's pretty much the second best tackle in this draft class as of right now. I still believe he's better than Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs had a really good rookie season, but I just feel like Jedrick Willis was just more dominant than Tristan Wirfs, which I have Tristan Wirfs going right after him at 11 to the New York Jets. I have Justin Jefferson being the first wide receiver taken off the board, going to the Las Vegas Raiders instead of Henry Ruggs. And I still, for the life of me, will not understand why Henry Ruggs went over guys like Justin Jefferson, Jerry Jeudy, and CeeDee Lamb. He had a really lackluster rookie season. I don't understand why people continue to hype up these speed demons as being guys who can be #1 wide receivers. Listen, Tyreek Hill is, a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. It's not really often you can find one of the fastest guys at the wide receiver position that they can end up becoming a true #1 wide receiver. That's just something that doesn't really happen all that often. And I think the same can be said for Jalen Waddle, because a lot of people trying to make that same argument that Jalen Waddle can be a #1 wide receiver. Listen, I understand that the NFL is about speed, but speed from the wide receiver position doesn't always equal production. It's about what other things you can do. How well can you run routes? How well are you getting off the line? Henry Ruggs last year, his rookie season was really underwhelming considering the fact that he was the first rookie wide receiver taken off the board, and you see the success that Justin Jefferson had last year in Minnesota. So most definitely Justin Jefferson deserves to be in replacement of Henry Ruggs as being the first wide receiver taken off the board. And I still don't understand why Henry Ruggs went over guys like Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, or whatnot, because I wasn't really all that impressed from his tape on Alabama, and a lot of Raiders fans didn't like my opinion about that, but I ended up being true. But Henry Ruggs did have a couple of big plays this year. You know, he flashed potential. But overall, when you're the first wide receiver taken off the board, you should have off-the-charts production right away as a rookie. And Justin Jefferson had that production instead of Henry Ruggs. And Henry Ruggs was taken before Justin Jefferson. So if you're the Raiders, if you had a chance to participate in this redraft and correct your mistakes, I'm pretty sure Justin Jefferson would go over Henry Ruggs with no debate. 13th overall, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking the offensive tackle Andrew Thomas. Now, Andrew Thomas wasn't bad, but he wasn't great neither. He was in the middle of the pack, which he does have the room to improve. And I think with Tampa Bay, they probably still would want to have an offensive tackle. So I think Andrew Thomas would still be a pretty decent player with Tampa Bay. I still think Tampa Bay would win the Super Bowl with Andrew Thomas. And Andrew Thomas wasn't bad. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't good neither. He was pretty much in the middle of the pack for a rookie, and I still think he would go in the first round. 14th, I have Derrick Brown going to the 49ers. The 49ers originally took Javon Kinlaw in this position last year. Now, Derrick Brown pretty much is still the best interior lineman from this draft class. So really, you still could take Javon Kinlaw or Derrick Brown. I don't really think it's that big of a gap there. I think they're pretty much evenly matched, but neither one really did anything, you know, sensational, really. They didn't really have like a 7-8 sack season or anything like that, but they both were pretty solid at times. Both did make some pretty big plays. Javon Kinlaw had a big interception one play. Derrick Brown was still pretty good for the Carolina Panthers. Neither one had a bad rookie campaign. It's just that I was kind of expecting a little bit more out of both of those guys, considering the fact about how good they were. Both of those guys were considered to be top 10 talents in last year's draft. Have CeeDee Lamb going 15 to Denver. This is probably going to be something that a lot of Denver Broncos fans disagree with, but I feel like CeeDee Lamb probably could have had similar production as Justin Jefferson if he didn't go to Dallas. And the reason why I say that is because you got to think about it. CeeDee Lamb was sharing targets with pretty much two other number one wide receivers. Amari Cooper is the number one, and on top of that, Michael Gallup is the wide receiver 2 in Dallas. But if he was playing on another team, he probably could be a number one, a fringe number one. So you look at that, CeeDee Lamb had to share targets with two other good wide receivers. If CeeDee Lamb was in a situation like Jerry Jeudy with Courtland Sutton going down, I think he probably would have had more production. Even though Drew Lock was really inconsistent last year and wasn't all that great, I still feel like CeeDee Lamb would have had a better rookie season in Denver than Jerry Jeudy, because Jerry Jeudy had great route running, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, he still had some of the most dropped passes in the NFL last year. With CeeDee Lamb, you didn't really see that many drops. I just feel like CeeDee Lamb, if he had the opportunity to be a true number one wide receiver and he wasn't sharing targets with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, he could have had similar production as Justin Jefferson. 16th overall, I have Atlanta taking C.J. Henderson. C.J. Henderson probably wasn't, I think he has the highest Pro Football Focus grade out of all the rookies. Don't quote me on that, but I know it's pretty high. But that just goes to show you how inconsistent Pro Football Focus is, because C.J. Henderson allowed 4 touchdowns. Like, he had a really good Week 1 performance against Indianapolis. Okay, but he was inconsistent against Tennessee, Miami. On top of that, he struggled with injuries as well. But I still think if you're Atlanta, you take C.J. Henderson. I just don't think he is better than a guy like a Trayvon Diggs. I still feel like Trayvon Diggs, Jalen Johnson are better, but this pretty much would be the point of the draft that you would take a guy like C.J. Henderson. Have Cameron Dantzler, another corner, going back-to-back, going to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, they originally took CeeDee Lamb at this point in the draft, 17th overall, but CeeDee Lamb's off the board. I think they still go with the defense side of football like how they did in the later round when they took Trayvon Diggs. And the reason why I don't think they go wide receiver, I think they went wide receiver because, first of all, CeeDee Lamb played at Oklahoma. So pretty much Dallas was able to see more CeeDee Lamb than anybody else. So I think CeeDee Lamb playing close to Dallas, playing close to home, I think that was a big reason why Dallas decided to pull the plug and draft CeeDee Lamb. But if CeeDee Lamb was off the board at this point, I'm pretty sure they would go corner. And Cameron Dantzler, like Isaiah Simmons, struggled the first half of the year, but in the second half, he was really rock solid. At one point, you could make the argument and say that he was the best corner that Minnesota had on their roster in the second half. Have Jonathan Jonathan Taylor going to the Miami Dolphins, 18th overall. Miami took Austin Jackson. Jonathan Taylor was the best rookie back last year. He set all kinds of records for a rookie back in games and things like that. So for Jonathan Taylor going to Miami, Miami didn't really have a, consistent run game. You had Myles Gaskins. That pretty much was it. So with Miami in this redraft, they take Jonathan Taylor and they get their full workhorse franchise caliber halfback. 19th, I have cornerback L'Jarius Sneed from LA Tech going to the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders took Damon Arnett, still had them taking corner because we know Damon Arnett was not good at all. He was a big reason. He was pretty much the reason why they lost to the Miami Dolphins, blowing coverage on that play that Ryan Fitzmagic had, that throw, pretty much a prayer that ended up putting Miami in field goal range. So L'Jarius Sneed was a big part of that Chiefs secondary. A lot of people don't really talk about how good L'Jarius Sneed is. Like, everybody talks about Trayvon Diggs and CJ Henderson and Jalen Johnson, but nobody talks about how good L'Jarius Sneed was as a rookie. He was pretty solid. He was a solid piece for Kansas City's championship defense last year. Even though they came up short in the Super Bowl, he was still a main part of the reason why the Chiefs defense was as good as it was last year. And I don't think L'Jarius Sneed gets talked about much in terms of how solid his rookie season was. 20th overall, I have Jacksonville taking Javon Kinlaw. I originally felt like Jacksonville, if Javon Kinlaw was still on the board, they still would have took him, because I felt like K'Lavon Chasen going 20th overall was kind of desperate. I feel like Javon Kinlaw would have been a better fit in Jacksonville than on K'Lavon Chasen at the defensive tackle position, because Jacksonville needed some more juice up front, and I feel like Javon Kinlaw would have gave them that. 21st overall, I have Philadelphia and Harry Roseman making up for the mistakes of taking Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. So they take Jerry Jeudy this time. They took Jalen Reagor. That was a huge mistake. And I just feel like Jalen Reagor was really underutilized. And I feel like Jalen Reagor was a solid wide receiver prospect. Just didn't feel like he was worth being drafted in the first round, especially not over Justin Jefferson. Really a big head scratcher there when it came to Howie Roseman. Another reason why Harry Roseman may be one of the worst general managers in the NFL when it comes to drafting talent. Nobody knows what he's doing, but he makes up for it drafting Jerry Jeudy, and Jerry Jeudy will have more production in Philadelphia's offense than Jalen Reagor. Now, Philadelphia needs Jerry Jeudy would have a pretty good year in Philadelphia if things would be, if this was actually able to, be replicated on the field. I feel like Jerry Jeudy would still have a pretty good rookie season like he did in Denver. He would still have the drops and things like that, but Carson Wentz would have a more reliable option than, having Jalen Reagor, who barely made any plays. As a matter of fact, Jalen Reagor didn't start making plays until Jalen Hurts took over as the starting quarterback in Philadelphia. I have T. Higgins going 22nd to Minnesota. Minnesota originally drafted Justin Jefferson at this point. T. Higgins was a pretty good rookie last year at the wide receiver position. He doesn't really get talked about enough about how good his rookie campaign was. So with Minnesota not being able to take Justin Jefferson, they probably take T. Higgins being the next best thing. 23rd overall, I have the Chargers taking Patrick Queen out of LSU. Now, this is going to spark debate. This pretty much comes down to who you believe was better, Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray. Now, Kenneth Murray was not better than Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen was, in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, Patrick Queen had that Kansas City Chiefs game that he struggled in. But aside from that, he was really good all year. So, if you are a Chargers fan, you're going to get mad saying, oh, JT, you should still have a second Kenneth Murray. Patrick Queen was better than Kenneth Murray. I'm sorry. Patrick Queen made more plays and he was better than Kenneth Murray. Not taking anything away from Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray was still really good, but Patrick Queen was better. 24th, I still have the Saints taking Cesar Ruiz. Hopefully I pronounced his name right. Cesar Ruiz was really good last year for New Orleans. I don't really think nothing should change there. So now we move on to the late part of the draft. The 49ers still take Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State. Brandon Ayuk was a pretty big staple in that 49ers offense with all the injuries they had and whatnot. So Brandon Ayuk still goes 25th overall to the 49ers. The Packers take linebacker Kenneth Murray instead of taking Jordan Love. Now, Kenneth Murray makes sense in Green Bay because the linebacker position in Green Bay is still rocky. Now, you brought in Christian Kirksey last year. He had injuries and he didn't really quite work out and perform, what you was hoping him to do so you got rid of him. Now you bring in, you make up for that with, instead of taking Jordan Love, you take somebody who can contribute on defense and Kenneth Murray. And I feel like the Packers defense would be really better with Kenneth Murray on their defense right now because they still have a hole at that linebacker position. 27th overall, I have Seattle taking offensive guard Michael Anu, or I'm sorry that I'm butchering his name, but he was drafted in round 6, and this guy was incredible last year. Really, really good. So if you're Seattle, if you had a chance to make up for your mistakes in last year's draft, this guy most definitely, if he was on the board, if you're Seattle, you wouldn't be able to pass him because their offensive line still is a mess. They still need to give Russell Wilson some protection. If you had a chance to make up for it, this would be the guy who you took at 27th. I have another offensive lineman get on the board, another interior offensive lineman. I have center Tylen Bad is going to Baltimore. Now, Baltimore really doesn't have a wide receiver at this point worth taking at this point of the draft. So I think this be the next best thing. And Baltimore's center position wasn't all that great. There was a lot of Ravens fans who were complaining about the starting center spot in Baltimore. So now you draft this guy to make up for it. I think that if you were the Ravens, this would be a pretty good pickup because you improved the interior of your offensive line. 29th overall, I have edge rusher Alex Highsmith going to the Tennessee Titans. Now, I'm pretty sure the Tennessee Titans would rather have Alex Highsmith than the guy they drafted last year because he's not even on the team no more. He's not even on a team anymore. If you're a Titans fan, you would be incredibly happy to have edge rusher Alex Highsmith. And Alex Highsmith, to remind you, didn't even start the whole entire season. He only started like the second half because Bud Dupree went down with that injury. He made a lot of big plays. He had a couple of sacks. He had a pick, I believe, against Baltimore as well. Alex Highsmith is going to be really good. This guy is a ball player. And if you're Tennessee, when you look at how bad your pass rush last year was, you really could use Alex Highsmith in a redraft. 30th overall, I have Antoine Winfield Jr. going to the Miami Dolphins. Now, I felt like Antoine Winfield should have won in the first round. Don't understand why he didn't go in the first round. He went to Tampa Bay. He was a huge part of why Tampa Bay's secondary was as good as it was and why they won the Super Bowl. Antoine Winfield Jr. should have won in the first round. This just goes to show you that scouts focus too much on size and they don't really understand, if a guy can play, size doesn't matter. If you have a guy on film who is good as what Antoine Winfield was in Minnesota, you don't pass on him because of size. People have to stop taking size into consideration much. And I'm not trying to say size does not matter. Size does give you the advantage, but size isn't the end all be all like how people try to make it out to be. Antoine Winfield should have won in the first round last year. Now, should he win the top 15? Probably not. But I could have seen Antoine Winfield going at this point in the draft last year. Miami to Noah Igbenogany, and I don't even know if he really did anything last year. Not to be disrespectful or anything like that, but I didn't really hear his name called as much. So pretty much if you got Antoine Winfield Jr., you will fill the gaping hole that you have at safety right now if you are the Dolphins. But that just goes to show you how these scouts like to nitpick these prospects, and you end up missing on really good players like Antoine Winfield. There is no reason why Antoine Winfield should have not won the first round. Really doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why these, scouts always got to, I'm not saying they're hating. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Antoine Winfield Jr. should have won the first round last year. Now, with the last two picks, I have A.J. Tyrell from Clemson going to the Minnesota Vikings because he was better than Jeff Gladney. And A.J. Tyrell wasn't bad. He was in the middle of the pack. I put him around the CJ Henderson range. Okay, he had some okay games, he had some bad games, he had some good games. You saw a mixed bag from Tyrell. I like Tyrell a lot. Still felt like Atlanta reached for him at the point of the draft. They drafted him last year. Felt like he should have went in the second round, but I think at this point in the draft, he, could deserve to be a late rounder. Then I have halfback James Robinson closing off this redraft. James Robinson was better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. No offense to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but James Robinson may be the best undrafted rookie we've seen in a very long time. As a matter of fact, he probably had the best undrafted rookie season from a rookie halfback that we've seen in a very long time. It's not really often that you can get an undrafted guy to come in and produce at a Pro Bowl caliber level as a rookie. And James Robinson would be a better fit in Kansas City's offense because of his versatility, what he's able to do, not only running the football, but also being able to catch the ball out of the backfield as well. So this is it for my redraft of the 2020 NFL draft. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content.